Bottega di Bella, where intellectual property meets international arbitration. International remedies for non-EU GI applicants and ensuing responsibilities of EU institutions and member states. The objective of this presentation is twofold. On one hand, to learn about international remedies available to non-EU applicants for the registration of a GI in the EU, and, on the other, to warn EU institutions and member states about possible liabilities stemming from these so far uncharted remedies. Once a GI is registered in the EU, this certification causes a twofold increase in the sales value of the product bearing the GI union symbol. This is the premise of this presentation, which is based on a 2021 study conducted by EU institutions and helps understanding the strategic importance of IP in promoting the value of certain goods that have a special link with a given terroir. Nonetheless, the incredible value generated by GIs can become a double-edged sword whenever this opportunity is denied or somehow unfairly delayed to a non-EU GI applicant. Such an applicant may use the incredible value attributed to GIs, backed by EU studies, as a yardstick to calculate the damage suffered. Thus, the applicant may equate its loss to the total value of its products sold in the EU over the period the applicant is enduring or had endured these administrative delays at the EU level. Indeed, had the GI applicant obtained the GI in due time, it would have been in a position to double the sales value of the underlying goods bearing that certification, thus grossing double the earnings actually gained. This is according to the full reparation principle under international law, which calls for applying counterfactual reasoning to estimate the loss suffered as a result of a state's internationally wrongful act. As this presentation will illustrate, indeed, such EU delays can amount to international violations by the single EU member states. By way of exemplification, imagine a third country producers association that has been waiting for the registration of its GI for over 5 years. For reference, the EU administrative timeframe to process such applications spans between 9 months to 2.5 years approximately, according to EU regulations. Imagine that this same producers association has collectively been exporting 50 million euros worth of bottles to the EU every year over the last 2 years. That producers association could now claim over 100 million euros from EU member states on account of the EU administrative delays, making it lose half of its potential earnings. To substantiate further the damage endured, such a non-EU applicant may look for comparable products whose GI application was processed quicker and whose sales value notably increased twofold following the attainment of the GI. Coincidentally, it would seem that non-EU GI applicants experiencing administrative delays are those who happen to offer a product which is the same or very similar to that of EU producers. Thus, they may effectively become a direct competitor. Highlighted the conspicuous damage a non-EU applicant may incur because of EU delays in obtaining a GI. The question is how such an applicant can internationally challenge these unfair situations. To seek full reparation for such damages, the non-EU GI applicant may invoke the bilateral investment treaties, or BITs, in force between its country of origin and the various EU member states. This is made possible because A. Such BITs qualify GIs as protected investments, and B. The draft articles on the responsibility of international organizations, abbreviated as DARIO, provide for instances where a state is responsible for an internationally wrongful act even when it is the international organization to which that state belongs to have competence over the subject matter concerned by the breach. Such is the case with the EU Commission vis-à-vis the EU member states when it comes to GIs. Indeed, most EU member states' BITs consider GIs as protected investments. Some BITs do so expressly by using the term appellations of origin. Others do so implicitly by referring to any IP rights. And since a GI is an intellectual property, it does fall under the definition of qualified investment. Accordingly, EU member states are under the obligations contained in their respective BITs with respect to GI applications, meaning they shall accord fair and equitable treatment to such applications, as well as accord them to national and the most favored nation treatments. Whenever an applicant faces unfair delays or undue rejection when its application process is contrasted with a comparable product of another national, EU, or third country producer, that applicant may argue the breach of these standards of investment protection by the EU member states via multiple investment arbitrations. In each arbitration, the applicant may claim as compensation an amount equal to its sales volume in each member state over the period of time concerned, since its loss is not having been able to double the unit sales value of its products. As to the draft articles on the responsibility of international organization, its Part 5 addresses the responsibility of a state in connection with the conduct of an international organization. Suffice to say that its Articles 59, 61, and 62 may assist a non-EU applicant to attribute to each EU member state the responsibility for the stalling EU administrative delays or rejection of its application. To recap, according to EU institutions, once a GI is registered, the unit sales value of a product bearing a GI certification becomes on average double that of a similar non-certified product. The EU GI system is meant to protect and promote IP rights and is also open to non-EU producers. However, non-EU producers often experience long administrative delays in their GI application process at the EU level, and you can make the argument that this is fundamentally true when their product is perceived, on account of its inherent features, as a competitor by EU producers. Thus, you can make the case that these are instances where the line between IP promotion and IP protectionism becomes blurry. Had such a non-EU GI application been registered in due time, that non-EU producer could have marketed its products at double their sale price much earlier in time, since this certification causes a twofold increase in sales value. EU administrative delays do cause huge damages, as we've seen in terms of loss of profit. Consequently, based on the full reparation principle, such a non-EU applicant may be in the position to claim as damages the difference in sale price during the unjustified delays in its GI application process by invoking the applicable BITs protecting IP rights, which encompass GIs. Bottega di Bella, empowering your international rights.